Welcome everyone to the Super Connector, where we talk about all things related to the world of influence, sales, leadership, personal branding, and my personal favorite, how to win friends and influence people. Today we have a special guest, Taylor O'Hare. He is a high-ticket appointment setting coach and consultant. He's worked with 3 different large high-ticket companies, such as being an appointment setter for 7th Level with Jeremy Miner. That's a big one. He has his own YouTube channel called High Ticket Tay, which you should check out. I'll post a link in the comments down below. I am really excited to have you on, Taylor. How are you doing?
Very well, yeah. Just looking forward to getting into the meat and potatoes. There's a lot to share, so yeah, let's get into it.
Awesome, awesome. So, firstly, how did you get into remote sales?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and keep it as short as I can. That'll be quite difficult, but I came into the industry literally back in June 2021, so I already had a bit of a background in sales. Working with, did door to door for about a year and a half, cold calling straight after, then B2B cold calling, about 2.5 years in total. And I thought, well, it would be nice to kind of do this, but working for myself, right? Working online, not having the limits of set amount of holiday days you have to prepare for, or being limited by your income. I wanted to be able to, I mean, every sales job has a limit on its income, but I wanted it to be a lot higher and under my own control. So I found out about the online sales space through Dan Lok. I'm sure you may have heard of Dan
Yeah,
Lok.
Dan Lok, yeah.
I think everybody has at this stage. So yeah, I kind of saw his stuff, got sold the dream of the 10K months that everybody else has, and thought, screw it, I'll dive in. And then my first proper role was with Sales Sniper, and from there, everything was history really. So that's kind of how I got into it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. I've looked through your Facebook, your LinkedIn, and your YouTube page. You have a very interesting story, so I'm happy that we can get to go through all of this. And
Finally, yeah.
what throughout this whole process, what made you decide to get into coaching and consulting?
To be fair, it's kind of one of those things where I was actually posting my appointment setting journey while I was with Seventh Level and Pompa program, which is like a big health company I worked with at the time. And to be honest, it was more for my own personal branding to have safety of opportunity so that no matter what happens with any company, if it tanks or if it goes really badly, then I can just move and switch companies and companies would want to hire me rather than me always having to apply for stuff. So it was through that where actually appointment setters got a lot of value from my content and reached out to say they liked it. Business owners did as well. And so I thought, well, I mean, I may as well actually set up something. And I actually got 2 back-to-back business referrals that wanted me to coach their teams, and I'd never coached any teams, never done any management in my life, just purely performing. And that made me think, well, if there's value being seen, I may as well just build something out. And it's been a very new process, right? The last 1 to 2 months that I've actually started it, but that's really what led to it. Kind of just fell into it, really, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and looking through your YouTube channel, checking out the content, checking out the shorts as well. They're really edited very well. So I know that you're using CapCut and you're quite good at it. And yeah,
Well,
it
I mean,
looks
I mean, thank you. I'd say I'm a huge beginner at this stage. They're not as good as yours at the moment, so I'm just trying to
uh,
get better, man. That's it.
yeah, we're all getting better together. I think we both opened our channel almost at exactly the same time, which was about 2 months ago, I think. But it's amazing what happens opening up a podcast, all the people that you get to connect with. And have you noticed that even just getting one person messaging you saying, man, I really got a lot out of that video that you did? Like, how does that feel for you when that happens?
Yes, it's really good because it makes it's that validation that sometimes we can park the bus and say we don't need it, but we do. Like it's really important. It gives us that confidence to keep doing what we're doing as well. So it's more motivation for me, but also knowing that it's helped somebody to achieve a certain result or for them to have found things in a different way, maybe helps them in their lives. Then yeah, there's definitely no better feeling. It's yes, of course, you do coaching to progress your life ultimately, right? But helping other people along the way is a massive bonus and something that I love to do. So, yeah, hugely beneficial.
Yeah, that's great. And I always think that my current mentor tells me about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and right at the top is self-actualization, and right at the bottom is, kind of the scarcity elements like food, water, so on and so forth. Being in a state of abundance, we want to self-actualize. And I think in a podcast where we are helping people, we're exchanging ideas back and forth, we help ourselves and we help the other people around us. And I think that's possibly why it's so inspiring.
So
Now, have you noticed your sales improving since you started coaching?
I actually have, because I've started. Well, I actually transitioned into closing straight after my health role with Pompa program, and I started then doing a bit more consulting, individual basis, like with businesses as well. I just noticed that I was able to pick up on more things when I was teaching, and I'd get more light bulb moments. Like sometimes someone would ask me a question, I'd provide some advice on what to do, and then I've realised that I've just learned myself, and I realised that I never did that before, but I wish I did when I was appointment setting. So it's one of those where, as I've been coaching, I've actually learned more about how to be a better appointment setter than when I was in the trenches. So it's like what they say, teaching is also a form of learning and one of the best ways to learn a skill. So it's benefited me massively. I've been able to understand myself a lot more.
Yeah, and I've heard that from every single incredible and highly effective teacher or coach out there. That, they say that when you take notes, written notes, well, you memorize or you learn things 50% more. And that's a proven statistic, something along those lines. But when you teach it, you learn it like 200% more, something like that. Don't quote me on that. But I think also it gives us maybe a type of introspective, looking at our own skills from an introspective standpoint, I guess. Would that be
Yeah.
correct? Do you notice that?
I do, and in fact, it's oftentimes when you're in the moment doing the coaching, you kind of just you focus on that person, right? But then afterwards, you reflect on what you said, and you think, I can't believe that's just come out of my mouth. But I've learned a lot even from what I've said,
Yeah.
right? Like that probably sounds a bit gloaty to be honest, but it's like yeah, like you do learn a lot from what you say sometimes, and sometimes you just need that moment of like not just consuming information, actually contributing, as well as consuming is what actually allows you to get more of an impact of your own learning as well. So that's what I'd always say is even if you've learned something and you're only one step ahead of someone, still teach to those people that are still on the come up because you end up learning more and progressing more yourself, even though you've not really learned anything extra. So 100% Stephen, I definitely would say that.
Yeah, great. And now you spoke about door knocking, and I saw one of your shorts. And it's a bit of a crazy story, but did you get punched in the face, or someone tried to punch you in the face? Did you punch him back, and what
I
happened?
was,
Was it a royal rumble in the middle of the street
I
outside his
was, yeah.
door?
I mean, I'm not sure how familiar you are with England, Steve, but people can get very stupidly angry over no reason, right? And if you end up retaliating or punching them back, I mean, for one, I would have lost my job 100%, and not only that, but I'd have probably had crowds of people around me trying to beat me up. Certain
Yeah,
parts of
yeah,
the UK, it
yeah.
gets a bit rowdy, but I mean, I can go into how it happened if you wanted, because it's quite an
Well, it was
interesting
just related
story.
to it's basically it's a crazy story, but it's related to, because you said that
Yeah.
how that almost happened, how it actually benefited you because it kind of
Yes.
desensitized you or toughened you up. Can you explain that or elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I mean, when I was doing door to door, I wasn't just doing door to door sales. It was all commission only. I wasn't getting paid for any extra responsibilities. I would recruit salespeople and I would train them, right? And the manager that was my mentor at the time passed me on somebody to recruit, right? And the amazing thing about recruitment in door to door sales is you not only tell, but you show. You show the realities of the role, you show what this is like. And the guy who was next to me, he saw me take all of the rejection, he saw me take all of these no's and things and get sales as well. And like, I realized that having someone there who's watching you, that level of accountability is massive. So
Uh,
when this person was watching me in this, because I was making a sale, transferring this guy's wife over to another energy supplier. And his husband comes through and says, "Who's this guy?" Because I had like a smart suit on. He'd come back from work looking a bit rough. So I don't know if it was because of the appearance difference. Who knows? But he then said, "What's he doing here? He's not going to switch. He's not going to switch her over." And then she's saying, "No, no, no, I'm going to sort this out." He comes back out and he's then like, "No, you're not switching my wife over." He gets really defensive about it. And then all of a sudden he goes, "Listen, mate, if you do that, I swear to God, I'm going to hit you." And he's like got his fist up in my face and everything. He's got spit all over my face because he's just shouting at me.
Yeah.
And this guy's watching me just take it. And I'm just there like, no, it's okay, no problem. We're not going to do it, seeing as it's angered you, and then have a great, leave him with a bit of with something nice, have a great rest of your day. I'm sorry that you're in a bad mood, and then just moved on like nothing happened. And the guy looked at me and went, like, did you see what that guy just did? Like, why didn't you do anything? It's like, it happens, just move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And it's like that level of reaction made me realize that that's the most powerful thing you can do for anyone is react the right way, no matter what adversity that you do get. So yeah, I know that's a long version of it, but
Well,
yeah, that's
it's the way you explained it. What that said to me is you were practicing, uh, at least what another guest I had on this podcast, Pierre Gooch, said, state control, or managing your emotional state when things are happening around you. And, that is something I really need to learn how to do, because I tend to be, I think with my personality type, I tend to be highly affected by my environment. And so I'm doing cold calls right now, and I haven't thrown my computer out the window or anything, but I've been getting a little frustrated. And how have you managed to practice that state control, keep yourself emotionally leveled throughout the process of the sale, regardless of what's coming at you?
Yeah, so I think first of all, if you're doing it with no mentorship or guidance from people who have achieved massive results, and it's very cliche these days having a mentor, but it is for a reason. You need it, right? Us alone, we cannot do it by ourselves, and to put everything on your shoulders is unreasonable, right? So to learn from somebody, and I had some great mentors and examples of people that literally showed me how to take rejection, how to handle it, how to move on, how to get over it and just crack on, and realize that it is actually leading you to a positive outcome, even though you cannot see it at the time. So I had mentors around me. I actually lived with my mentor for about 6, 7 months. And I realized just being in that environment away from my parents in the south of England and in the Midlands, it was everything. It was the reason that I was able to have a foundation and grow from it. So, 100%, I would say it comes down to mentorship, but also realizing that in anything you pursue, effort, and consistent effort over time, it will 100% lead to something. And forget when it happens or how, just know that it will. Those things are really important. I'd probably put it
Yeah.
down to those.
Yeah, because as you're explaining this, I mean, what this is saying to me and what I notice is that this isn't just sales training that you've gotten. You've gotten way more personal development training. I mean, that seems like really what has made, probably, I would imagine, the biggest difference in your career is the personal development that you have. And I think, tackling something that's very difficult, it has a way of maturing us, regardless of what age we're at. How did you find that throughout your process from the beginning of sales until now? And you said that was 6 years, from 19 to 26. How did you find that it matured you from an emotional and psychological perspective?
Massively. I think when I came into the high ticket space, I thought everyone's just like a baby bird. It's like they wanted to work like 4 or 5 hours, not take any rejection, just do inbound. It's like it just made me realize that it was not that hard. But I only felt that I had that perspective, and I was able to show that mental strength from the beginning because I went through those bad experiences. So doing door to door sales, if anyone does who listens to this does have a chance to be able to do it, I would say 100% go for it. Do door to door sales. It's the best thing you can do. Cold calling is very much the same as well. It's brutal, and it teaches you a lot more about yourself as far as when stuff I try not to swear, but when things hit the fan, how you deal with that and move on is very important. And the more difficult scenarios you get put in, and the more you bounce back from it, that the better things do get for you. So personal development's been the biggest thing doing door to door sales, I would say, but also just like learning more about yourself, self awareness, strategizing as well around that. It's if you don't do it, then you're going to treat sales like a job, and then you only earn the money of like a simple job. Right?
Yeah,
That's about the personal development in sales. You can't see any improvements, right?
yeah, that's right. That's right. So, seventh level, how did you manage to make your way into seventh level?
Yeah, it's a funny story actually. So I learned from a career development mentor that I think you're familiar with actually, JD Daly. He was the first person that I learned from. June 2021 is when I officially, got into the space and actually learned from him. So I figured Sales Sniper was where everybody wanted to work. Seventh level Sales Sniper, that was the place, right? So I thought, well, how can I get into it with even all these people trying to compete for the same role? And I thought, well, I'll do it just from doing things differently, not going through the typical application route when they have jobs available, right? But actually creating an opportunity because I have that much value to bring. So what I did to create that opportunity was posting content that related to their core values and what their culture is. So they had two sales groups. They had obviously seventh level sales group, and then the sales sniper. It was called a closing code group, right? I paid for their $50 a week role playing training, sales training that they had to show that I was actually invested and I was serious. And then I posted content that related to what their culture was. And actually, I wanted to get the attention of the CEO, COO, and I think it was COO, CEO was the main one. So I think Matt Ryder was at the time. So I managed to put up a post showcasing their materials, showcasing their training to promote more members. That would may have helped them get a few more sales.
Yeah.
And then from there, I did manage to make them laugh with a post because they do love having a laugh, having banter. Australians, typical.
Yeah.
So that helped as well. And then from there, I had a very quick 15-minute interview, and it was the easiest interview I've ever done.
Yeah.
But it was all through that upfront value that just persuaded them to want to hire me. So they were already in a mindset of this guy's really good, but we'll just verify it. Right. And then from there, it's a very easy decision for them. So it was all about building the brand up front that enabled me to get into seventh level because Sales Sniper and seventh level were part of the same deal, basically. So
Yeah.
just simple transition from there.
Great. Great. Yeah. So because watching one of your shorts, you had explained that you need to get connected with highly influential people in this space. It's very important when it comes to finding opportunity, and obviously that's what you did. I don't know how many times you stalked Jeremy Miner's page, but obviously you must have done a good job.
I did a
And
lot. I did a lot. I showed that I was a fan of his stuff, his training, because that's one of the things. If you're going to work for seventh level, you have to be bought into their style. That's
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
So yeah,
And
100%. I definitely stuck the hell out of him.
like Jeremy Miner is a really big name. He's a really big name out there right now. And his style of sales, I've read his book, The New Model of Selling, I believe it's called, Selling to an Unsellable Generation. And his philosophy regarding sales, it makes perfect sense to me that people are they have less trust in salespeople than ever before. And how did you find that style of sales? Like, how did you find that style of sales to be? Like Jeremy Miner's specific style.
For me, it was everything. It was the reason that gave me confidence in being able to transition into the high ticket space. I think without it, I would have just been totally lost
Yeah.
with a selling style. So for me, Jeremy gave me the confidence to know like how to sell effectively, to use frameworks, to be very specific with word tracks, and understand why you're even doing anything in the first place. So it was massive for my sales foundations for sure. And no matter what people say about Jeremy, I'll always be thankful for what he's been able to help me with as
Yeah.
far as training and for all the people that he has been able to help. So his selling philosophy is really really good for anybody that's like at the starting point, even people that just want to tweak and get as good as they possibly can. But yeah, obviously there's intricacies, there's ways of doing it, but overall, like as far as specifics, if we go actually back to principles, everyone's really trying to do the same thing. There's just so many specific ways to do it.
Yeah.
So it enabled me to focus on principles a lot more. And now I've embodied the way that he sells, but also been able to develop my own way of communicating, being basically the best version that I can be, rather
Yes.
than just another, copy of Jeremy, which I definitely cannot do what Jeremy does a lot of the time. I'm not fully like him, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and that brings me on to this question here because, when a person's been in sales for a long time or they're a beginning, sales professional, learning a new style it can be a bit jarring because maybe they're behaving in a way in which they don't normally behave. Now starting to do new techniques, and I know Jeremy Miner strategies are very specific in the beginning. Did you find a way to make it more organic, or how did you find a way to make it more organic with your own personality, more congruent with your own communication style, so that you didn't just sound like another person and that it was more you? How did you manage to get to that point?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking because the way I first started, it was like, oh, I just want to be like Jeremy. Like, I'll just do the way he does it, right? And then I started asking the questions like, did that have an impact on you or something like that? It just sounded so odd and it wouldn't land properly on calls. So what I did is, and Matt Ryder helped me with this massively when I was at Sales Sniper, is yes, looking at why the question's being asked, go 3 layers deep into the specific questions. From there, you then realize why you're even asking it. And then from there, it's kind of like a spider diagram on it. You then look at what's actually being done. Why is this even being said? In what context should this be said? Right. And then from there, it enables you to be able to ask different types of questions. So, like for every single question in the script, and I would work on this half an hour to an hour a day,
Yep.
is create 3 or 4 different questions of the same question. Right. So,
Okay.
because a lot of people say, what do you mean by that? Right. That's the classic clarifying question. But you can say, when you was referring to X, Y, and Z, what were you inferring? Right. Or you can ask, like, you can change the order of the words, but you still end up asking the same question, just asked differently. So then, like going a layer deeper, I then thought, right, well, these are the questions I can ask. How can I ask it in a way where it suits the way I typically communicate? And then from there, I had my perfect question for clarifying and for probing and things like that. So I was just able to be very specific. And I
Yeah.
think also prioritizing me in the sales process. Um, because oftentimes I thought the sales process was everything, not me, and then the sales process,
Yeah.
right? So I realized that how do I naturally communicate, and then just went in alignment with that.
Yeah.
That was, yeah, well, I would say the main way that I managed to humanize it.
Yeah. What you just explained kind of says to me that you trained until that training became ingrained within you, and then you brought yourself into the equation and made it authentic. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I would say I did it the wrong way. I think it's important to have that self inventory of who you are, what your tendencies are, what you do, the way that you are, like extreme self awareness
Yeah.
and strategizing around that. And then from there, using the sales skills, process, scripting, whatever that is, to enhance who you are.
Uh,
You know, like my the VP of sales, my last one when I was about to leave there, he said, "Be a human first, then it's NEPQ afterwards."
okay.
That's what he would say.
I
So
like
yeah,
that
massive.
actually. I really like that because when I was reading his book and I thought about using those techniques, I was thinking about it backwards as well. I was thinking that so long as I can memorize all of this, then I can put myself in it later, but it didn't really feel organic. So that's an interesting way that you explain that there. I appreciate that. So about personal branding, because you understand personal branding and how important it is in this remote sales space, and also becoming an online entrepreneur, which you're already doing, right? Why is personal branding as a remote sales professional so important in high ticket sales today?
Puts you on the map. I think, look, if you're trying to compete for the very best roles out there, yes, it's important that you have the credentials, you have the skills. That's obviously very, very important. But if nobody knows who you are, then you're going to be doing the same things as other people, right? Applying for posts cold, right? Or not being recommended opportunities or referred, unless it's within your very close circle of network that you know, right? But your personal brand is what enables you to actually get more inbound inquiries. And the thing is, as a sales pro, if you only think of yourself as somebody who does sales, then you're not treating it as who you are, which is actually you're a service provider, right? You actually provide a service of communicating with other people's leads, being entrusted with working with them to provide a positive outcome for a business. That is you providing a service for that business, right? So if you don't look at yourself that way, then you're just too one dimensional. You're limiting your own opportunities. So yeah, I just wanted to find a way where I could see myself as a business, operate from that view. And don't get me wrong, I still battle with it. Like it's as a sales pro, you can get sucked into one role, be super committed, and then kind of not see yourself as doing marketing, fulfillment, those kind of things. But if you see yourself that way, you just become so much more flexible and get offered a lot of opportunities, even outside of selling as
Yeah,
well. So I just found that it was just enabling me so many more opportunities to grow and be seen with a positive reputation that enables me to get those roles as well.
And this is going to be, this is a question that is almost impossible to answer accurately because it's about the
Okay,
future. But
deep breaths.
how do you see personal branding changing in the future in the remote sales space and maybe in general? Because I mean, there's so many possibilities. Obviously, we can make a business out of it, but how do you see it changing and how do you think that we should adapt to things in the future?
I think now more than ever, Jeremy's explained it rightly. Unsellable generation, skepticism's higher. It's. I think it's got even higher now. Post COVID, there are so many online businesses, but there are also so many people doing slimy things like guarantees that are unrealistic, right? Or they're just not fulfilling on their promises, things like that. And most prospects nowadays in the online industry, they've been through about 2 or 3 sales calls and been messed about, scammed. You get it with every 1 to 2 people you speak with, oftentimes.
Yeah,
So people have been scarred by this industry.
yeah,
So, I think what's really most important is that your branding is all about transparency and authenticity, right? Like, yes, I want to provide advice, but I also want to talk about the realities of doing appointment setting or doing remote sales. It's nice to say, look, you can take 5 calls a day, close 20%, make 10K a month, then take calls from the beach next week. It's all well and good, but it's just not realistic. It's not what happens. And there's a whole process it takes to get to that point,
yeah,
right? And so I think content should now be more about process focus rather than outcome focus.
yeah,
That's why I always talk about skills, what you should learn, how you should be when it comes to my content. And don't get me wrong, it's not sexy to talk about. It's exciting to hear that, oh, you can make 10K a month and things like that. It's amazing, it's inspiring. But you're unfortunately attracting the wrong types of people that just focus on money, 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 and I
yeah,
was that person when I started. And that hurt me in the beginning, to be honest, just focusing on money. I felt I had an entitled mentality, unfortunately, when I started. So it's resetting the expectations, I think, of the whole industry, just to clear out some of the bad programs and companies out there. But the more ethical ones, they're really going to grow
yeah,
because they're more focused on the right things with process focused, no guarantees, just doing the right thing by others, really.
yeah.
So that's, yeah, best way you could say it, I guess, from my side.
Yeah, and the way I look at like how you explained how you experienced a sense of maybe entitlement in the beginning, which I believe a lot of people have experienced in their lives. And I noticed that have had that a little bit, not really in sales, but in other jobs I've had in the past. Getting out of that was the biggest part of my maturing process. And it
Yeah.
forced me into being a person that decided I am the one that's going to push myself forward. No one else is. And so it gave me or made me realize that my independence was more important than anything. And I think that in a commission based industry, that's the most important. You have to be self motivated. And, having
100%.
my personal belief is that, it was 4 or 5 months ago, which I came into the remote sales space. I went to UCM and JD Daly. I'm good friends with him. We're about to go to Medellin and meet up down there. And one thing that I noticed is that I was able to make an incredible amount of progress, despite the fact that I was camera shy, believe it or not. And I was incredibly nervous putting myself on camera. And yet now I have desensitized to myself to the point where I feel very comfortable. But the only reason why I was able to actually make progress, get a job, despite the fact that I had no sales experience, was because I had so many encouraging people around me. I just had great people. I knew I had the capability, but I didn't, and the ambition, but I just didn't feel like I had the initiative. So, how important? I mean, obviously, you can say it's very important, but I mean, yeah, like how important did you notice it is to have the right people around you that are encouraging, that have a vision for the future, um, that they want to continually get better and they want the best for you? How have you noticed that to make an impact in your journey? Basically, having ambitious, basically having the right people around you that believe in you.
For me, it's the most important thing. I know with me, and it's one of the things to my detriment. I'm actually quite impressionable. Like it's very easy to make an impression on me. I can be very easily swayed by things, and I think yes, it can be to my own detriment. But also when I'm around people that are extremely driven, very vision oriented, and they really go for it, then that's infectious for me, right? That really gets me going, and then I end up becoming one of those people as well. So for me, environment is absolutely everything. Don't get me wrong, it is hard in the online space because there's something to say about actually meeting people in person and seeing them doing it. That's everything. And I said to you earlier about living with my mentor. I used to see her morning routines, what she used to do in the office, the way she'd communicate with people. I'd watch everything that she did. And
Yeah.
that helped me to understand like the how you have to be as a person, not just what habits you have to learn and stuff like that. So it's what Tony Robbins says about proximity is power, right? Like that's a huge concept of his and something that I learned being in UPW, his wealth mastery event as well. And I remember just, jumping up and down in like an apart hotel, screaming like they make you do in the events, like the virtual
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people outside my door thought I was an absolute lunatic, but it was just so infectious when you're around
Yeah.
people that positive, that really are driven and want to do well. And so, yeah, you have to, if you have a tendency like that, which I do, with like being impressionable, then just be impressionable with the right people.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, things are going to go south. So
Yeah.
it's everything.
It's exactly that. I'm very similar to you in terms of being impressionable. So the people that I have around me are probably the most important. And I have never really been able to have success with anything, despite the fact that I'm ambitious, unless I had the right people around me. So I would say, yeah, you're right. It's more important than anything. Um, Now, you expressed something in one of your shorts, and you said how quickly that you can react from negatives will determine your level of success in selling. So can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, because I think first of all, when it comes to sales, don't come into this expecting that it's light and breezy. It's not. You're going to experience problems. You're going to doubt yourself a hell of a lot, be frustrated. Like with your case, nearly throw your laptop out the window. That's going
Yeah.
to happen plenty of times. And the amount of times that those classic door to door pictures of you sat on the curb, nearly, wanted to not literally wanted to end your life, but you're just feeling a bit crappy about things and feeling a bit
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah.
It 100% will happen in every single phase. Even if like you see these guys that are making 50 to 100K a month, believe me, they will probably have a lot of problems as well, a lot of doubts, a lot of insecurities, like all of us do. So I think sales 100% is all about reaction, because despite all of these doubts that you may have and these things that hold you back, essentially how you just keep going and focusing on that longer term and just keep at it is what will enable you to make those steady parts of growth. And I think that's what's really important about sales is it's a lifelong journey. These guys who you think have it all, they still don't. They still really do work on themselves. It's what got them to that level. So you've just got to simply walk that path. Because in sales, who you are is exposed more than any other profession,
Yes,
right?
that's a
Or like
very
sports, I
interesting.
would say.
Mhm.
Like sports is a huge part of that. Like I'm an avid footballer, so like I notice when you're in sports, who you are and your desires and tendencies are literally exposed for everybody to see, right? How you are when the pressure is really on. So that's why I love sales. It's an addiction, right? That's kind of hard to explain. You kind of have it or you don't with
Mhm. Yeah.
sales, but yeah, reaction is just so crucial. Otherwise, you're screwed if you have the wrong reaction.
Yeah, and I wasn't much of a footballer. Well, I mean, over here in North America, football is the one where you throw it. Doesn't really make sense
Oh
that we
yeah,
call it football because we're not playing with our foot. Makes more sense where football is what we call soccer. But I watched a lot of basketball when I was younger. I mean, especially the Chicago Bulls. Jordan, Dennis Rodman, and Scottie Pippen were just like the dream team. Now, there is a difference between, there are two different types of people in sports, I would say, because I was a basketball player myself. There are people that perform at their best during pressure, and then there are people that perform at their worst during pressure. What do you think the difference is between those two people? Or maybe they experience both, but how did you manage to get to a point where you had more focus under pressure? Because you have to have that as a good salesman.
Oh, so that's a tough one. When it comes to like pressure, it's one of those things where accepting that it will happen, like your mindset around pressure has to be on point, right? And I'll tell you this from experience. When I played football, whenever I was under pressure, I would play terribly, right? I'd lose the ball a lot. Nobody would want to play with me. But if I played with just kind of, I'm playing my own game, I can't control what everybody else is doing. I'd play the best game, get man of the matches, there'll be scouts looking at me. It's totally opposite mindset. So it's firstly the frame around pressure is what's really important, and realizing that we actually magnify what pressure is. We overdo it. We think it's worse than it actually is. And often it comes from you focusing on what you cannot control. Oftentimes, paying your bills, providing for your wife, family, being able to make high commission months, influencing other people, to make like other people making a decision that's beneficial for you. You can't actually control any of those things.
Mhm.
But the pressure comes when you only focus on that.
Yeah.
So I found that whenever I focused on simply the controllable variables, and this was like what I noticed in door-to-door sales, is when I focused on my approach, what I was doing, my own work ethic, my own commitment, and my own attitude to things. From then, like I didn't need to worry about anything else. So it was quite easy to actually perform when I focused on those things. And anything outside of that, you're going to be full of anxiety. You're going to want to, there was times where I've not ever wanted to take sales calls. Like if I saw 7 or 8 bookings on my calendar, I was like, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to speak
Yeah.
to these people
Yeah.
because I'm so focused on everything outside of me. But when it was all about me and I'm focusing on serving that person, that's like, yeah, you really want to do it, and there is no pressure because it's just created by you. It's not even a black and white thing, right? You create that pressure at the end of the day. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, but I think maybe give you a bit of my insight around it.
That's all good. Podcasts are made for going off on a tangent because it makes everything way more interesting.
Well, I find as well, like salespeople, and I've got this experience from speaking with them. We are the worst people to communicate with because we love going on tangents. We
Yeah.
love talking about ourselves, and we're also just very scatterbrained. We're very lizard brain people, I find. I'm speaking for myself, by the way. Maybe not for yourself,
Oh,
but I
I'm
know for me,
worse. Trust
massively.
me.
Right. Okay. So maybe if I have a podcast episode with you, that's going to be a 2-hour one. I'm
Oh,
assuming.
yeah, definitely. Now,
Got it.
there's one thing that I want to ask before I leave, and I ask this question with all of my guests, all of the people that I'm interviewing. Now, there are going to be people watching this podcast that are very new to networking, very new to sales. Maybe they haven't even gotten their first remote sales job yet. What would you say to those people as words of advice or encouragement starting in their journey when they may feel very stifled and have a lot of doubt right now?
I'd say, well, first of all, good. Normalize the doubt. If you don't normalize it and you over exacerbate it and make it look too negative, then you're going to get yourself stuck, first of all. And remember as well, like sales is not to be played for the short term. It's all about the long game. If you're going to be in sales, be in it for many, many years. And from that, oftentimes that's when it will lead you to different paths. If you're focusing on only trying sales out, seeing what it's like, then just get a job like that. That's all I would say. And there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Getting a job because sales is not for everyone by any means. But I would say 100% focus on the long run and focus on developing who you are as a person. And actually being comfortable with yourself is actually one of the best things you can do. Like, don't get me wrong, it's nice to grow and evolve, but get to become comfortable with yourself as quickly as you possibly can, and do what is comfortable as far as communication. Obviously, do what's uncomfortable with your work ethic, discipline. That's all uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah.
But get as comfortable with who you are as you can, as quick as you can. So those are 3 things there, I'd say.
Yeah, great. This episode has been so great. I love shorts now. We're going to get lots of cool shorts out of this with a lot of cut captions and make it super fancy, make ourselves look larger than life. That's what I love about shorts. We take only the best parts and make ourselves look incredible. And I think as salesmen, we love to make ourselves look incredible. We love to talk about ourselves,
We
as you
overdo that
suggested
for sure.
before. Who would have thought that
Definitely.
salesmen have egos, right? Who knew?
Oh no, we're the worst for it. I mean, if you want to see ego at the highest level, then sell to real estate agents. And if I offend any of you guys, then I apologize, but do take a look in the mirror as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. This has been such a great episode. I think it's going to be very helpful to many people that watch. I'm really happy to have you on. You're definitely, I consider you definitely to be a part of the inner circle of my network now. I'd like to keep good people by me, people with good morals, good values, with ambition, and basically they want the best for people. And when they sell, they actually want to change the lives of the people they're selling to. And uh, that ability to be genuine and that authenticity makes a difference makes an incredible difference in their lives. And I hope that all the people that have those same values and morals will reach a point of self-actualization, after their finances are secured, that they will achieve also meaning and purpose in their life. And I think it's truly possible, even through sales. I do think that it is. Yeah. All
Definitely, it's where
right.
most of the gurus started off.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, we're going to stop this recording now. Wave goodbye to the audience. Been a great episode. Love to have you on, Taylor. See you
Thank you for
later,
having me.
guys.
Take care, guys.
Okay.